afternoon, colleagues. Thank you for taking your time to attend this session. It's a very interesting session today because we're trying to look into the preparation of assessment and things that maybe if you're already on a system of teaching and learning, maybe sometimes you miss this activities that we are supposed to do as teachers, facilitators, lecturers during our preparation stage. So I'm hoping today I will highlight things that might be of importance, especially to ensure that you have a very good preparation for your assessment. So basically, when you're looking at this particular unit, we're gonna be trying to look at about 6 outcomes. Don't feel scared by looking at 6 outcomes. Some of them are a bit longish, and some of them are a repetition of what we have said on Unit 1. But here we're trying to be thorough in terms of ensuring that we make emphasis on certain documentation. We also make emphasis on certain activities that one need to take note of when we are preparing for assessment. So just to look into the overview in terms of the preparation, one thing that during the preparation, look at the preparation of assessment resources, logistics, documentation, and environment, which meets the requirements of assessment at hand and ensures fairness and safety of assessment. So with this one, if you can recall, we talked about assessment principles where we highlighted the issue of fairness, things like that. So when you're looking at the resources that you use, you need to make sure that the resources are sufficient, are relevant, and are also of are aligned with the assessment that you should conduct. And we also look at the documents that one need to complete during the preparation stage and the logistics such as venues, things like that, in terms of ensuring that your assessment is done in a venue that is appropriate, things like that. And then learning outcome 2 touches on parties that are involved in the assessment. So it asks a question of who need to be notified during the assessment process. Is it a candidate? Is it a moderator, assessor, things like that? But it differs from institution to institution. It might happen that in a SITA environment, you need to contact maybe moderators, assessors, as well as the candidate. And then maybe if you are at school level, there are different stakeholders that are there as well. Maybe you find yourself, you need to ensure that your immediate supervisor is aware of your plan in terms of how and when you're going to conduct the assessment. So that is part of notification in terms of what are you busy with, and maybe someone might need to put an eye in terms of what you are doing. So that is why it's very important to look into who are the parties that need to be involved during the assessment process. So you need to determine that during the preparation stage. Checks are carried out to ensure parties involved in the assessment are ready and available to meet the required schedule. Like for example, in terms of the occupational program or qualification or skills qualification, before you start a program or during your planning, you need to make sure that you have identified who would be assessing your qualification, if it's a full qualification with many unit standards or a unit standard like this, and you need to know who would be an assessor for this particular module, for this particular unit standard, and who would be a moderator for this particular unit standard, so that parties that are involved are clear in your preparation, not to do things that maybe at the stage whereby you are forced by the situation. No, you need to know it beforehand. And then learning outcome 3, look at the pre-assessment moderation requirement. In terms of when you're looking at the pre-assessment moderation, you're looking at some sort of a certain criteria that you need to look at in terms of, did we meet this and that? There are a number of criteria that one needs to look at when looking at the pre-assessment moderation. Just to give you an example, maybe in a school setting or in a TVET setting, the pre-assessment moderation, sometimes you might look at the assessment itself in terms of the technical aspect of an assessment, whether grammar, no grammar errors within the assessment, things like that. The cover page of the assessment is in line with what the institution used. The paper doesn't have biasness. Does it cover all relevant cognitive levels as per the guidelines of assessing in that particular institute? So those things, the pre-checks that are done, it's more like you're moderating, but you are moderating before you conduct the assessment. So those are the things. Sometimes you find that one might check that if the question paper or an assessment has diagrams, within pre-assessment, you need to check whether the diagrams are clear enough for students to see when they write the paper. Maybe before photocopying and after photocopying, because you might find that when you're printing your question paper, it looks clear. And then when you start making maybe 20 copies for individuals who would be part of that assessment, it fades somewhere. So those are pre-assessment moderation requirements that need to be conducted, and they need to be conducted in accordance with the assessment policies of that particular institution. And also they need to be conducted within the moderation plan and within the space of the CETA, Education and Training Quality Assurance. That is CETA. When we use the word ETQA, we're talking about the CETA. They are Education and Training Quality Assurance. So there are requirements that CETA has put in place for assessment to make sure that when you do your preparation, you do those checks in terms of aligning yourself with the requirement of that particular CETA. You are conducting a qualification or a unit standard assessment. And then learning outcome 4, assessment details are explained to candidates clearly and constructively. Opportunities for clarification are provided and responses promote understanding of the requirement. At this stage, that is where, if you are an assessor, you engage with the candidate in terms of their readiness, in terms of ensuring that there's clear understanding in terms of when the learner is being assessed, they know exactly what and how and when they will be assessed. So in that instance as well, it gives opportunity whereby there's something that is not clear and then get to be clarified at that stage. Learning outcome number 5, it looks into trying to establish if there is a need for adhering or with special needs, and also look for things that can enhance in terms of ensuring that the assessment pass validity in terms of, does it have what is assessed is what the individuals have learned. And then it also look at other things such as maybe is there an RPL opportunity, whereby maybe candidates, they don't really need to write this particular assessment. They just need to undergo RPL and be credited. So those are the things also looked at. And then if there is modification that need to be done within the assessment, that at that stage it get done before the assessment get conducted. And then lastly, candidate readiness for assessment is confirmed. There are documents that you need to complete with your candidate as an assessor to make sure that he says I'm ready and he knows exactly what to be assessed, things like that. So we're going to play with that during our practical, whereby you'll be a candidate, I'll be your assessor, you complete a certain section, and there are letters that I will be sending to you on that particular practical saying that, dear Ryan, this letter serves to confirm that you are ready for the assessment of our outcome-based education with 15 credits, which would be written on this particular day. And then you sign at the bottom, say that, yes, I agree. And then I'll sign next to your signature and your name. I'll put mine as well as an assessor to say that we both agree that you are ready to write an assessment. So by the look of that this is how interesting is this unit in terms of preparation. And I'm trying to put some points in this slide because maybe when you go in, we might be more looking at the practical aspect of these outcomes. Here, I was trying to highlight them exactly as they are so that you can get a glimpse in terms of what is it about. I'm not sure before I move on if you have any question in this slide in what I just said. Do you have any question? If there's something that is interesting to you that you want maybe to clarify before we move on for this slide, or are we still okay? Are we still okay?
I believe we're still okay for now because we're still gonna go into details of these outcomes, right?
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. Right now, I'll actually make you a class rep because you are good at rescuing me when I don't get the answer. Let's move on. And 2.1, preparation for assessment. So during the preparation of candidate assessment, the following need to be kept in mind. So those are the things that you need to keep in mind when you prepare for assessment. So assessment details are explained to candidates on a level understandable to candidates. You do not speak a jargon that your candidate don't understand. Like for example, let us say you are involved with GETC, like ABET, a certificate. Those guys who are doing a course that is equivalent to grade 9 when you're looking trying to match it with the school grade, and then you come and speak the language for people at a TVET college. So that is not acceptable. Which means if you are talking about assessment details, you must talk about assessment details that is in the level for those particular students. And then you also talk about the purpose, why this assessment is conducted. Like we are conducting this assessment for the sake of learning. It's a formative so many marks and it's weighted so many percentage towards your final mark. All those things get explained. The process you explain to a learner in terms of how the assessment will unfold. The candidate will need to be on time at this venue, and then they need to bring this and that. All the whole process of the assessment that is conducted. Expectations, you also try to establish the expectation of the candidate, and you explain the expectation of the assessment as well, so that there will be a clear balance that is covered there. The roles, responsibilities, appeals procedures, clear explanation of key elements of assessment and in the relation to N2F. So in this point of key element of assessment and the relation to N2F, it triggers something in my mind that I would like you to think about. I would like you to start thinking about what would be your focus when you conduct your assessment. Maybe I'm not clear by that statement. Like for example, let us say, let me use the name here on the group, Lena, someone who's based in the municipality, but she has an interest to be a teacher, but she works for Swane municipality. And then now she has joined this course just to get an understanding of assessment and to fit in the education space. So your interest is on the municipal, maybe you have done public management, things like that. And then if I'm asking you what you're gonna assess, which means obviously you assess things that are of your interest, that is public management. It's an example. Okay, how do we go about now selecting a certain unit standard that talks to public management? You will select that by looking at what is it that you want to assess based on the municipality or public management field. Let us say you want to assess within the public management field. You want to assess maybe, for example, public finance or basic public finance or basic public administration matters. So when you go to Google and you Google your interest, and then you say that maybe you say SAQA first, so that it will give you some sort of a unit standard and the number of registered unit standard within the N2F that talks to public management or municipality. And then you type in SAQA basic public finance. You just type that. You'll see what will pop up in your Google. You get a SAQA ID, and then it will give you a number of unit standards that talks to public finance, which was your interest. Okay, let me do another example. I know Innocentia is within the life orientation space, and then let us say you want to find something that you can assess that talks to life orientation. And then you go to SAQA as well, and then you type in a certain topic that is taught on life orientation. Because if you just type life orientation, it won't give you things that are clear. But if you type something that is within life orientation, within the topics of life orientation, it will give you something. Okay, for example, within life orientation, they talk about healthy living. And then you go to your Google space and then you type SAQA healthy living. And then you click enter. You'll find the SAQA ID that talks to anything and everything that is within that topic. The list goes on and on and on. And then you can look at your interest. I know SBI is within the hospitality space. And then for SBI, you can say SAQA food preparation. And then you'll get to something there. You might get a qualification within SAQA that talks to food preparation. You might get a unit standard that talks about food preparation, something like that. I don't know if I make sense. Am I making sense with the story that I just made?
Yes, sir, you do make sense.
Yes, sir, you're making sense.
Okay. Can you please do a try and error in that aspect once you are done or once you have time, and go to SAQA and think of your interest and write and go to Google, and then you write SAQA and you write anything that you have an interest on and see if you get a certain unit standard based on that particular interest of yours. Because I'm not going to limit you on my interest. You're going to do it based on your interest. All right. Why are we doing that exercise? In this point, it's a clear explanation on key element of assessment and the relation to NQF. So let us say you have typed SAQA and you have typed, like for example, I have an interest in an assessor course. I would type SAQA and then I would type in assessment. And then the system would just give me a unit standard 115752 outcome-based assessment. And then I click on that. It will show me a SAQA document with a number of outcomes. It's something like that that you would get when you do that. So you get something, the unit standard and the SAQA document that talks to a particular interest of yours. And then what happens from there, you will start working on the outcomes that are there, things like that. But we talk further with that. I just wanted to introduce you a little bit to that element of the practical that we'll be doing, because during our practical, Ryan Poloken will have a SAQA ID that he's working with. During the practical, Melen Sibia will have a SAQA unit standard that he would be working with. Simpiwe would do the same. Mapule would do the same. Lina would do the same based on their interest. They will do the same. Please do not complain if I did not call your name. I tried. And then that point, clear explanation on key elements, covers that part. You need to have a SAQA document so that whatever preparation of your assessment is in line with the NQF. You are assessing something that is registered within the framework. So yes, that is where we are. Check done to ensure that candidate is ready for assessment. For example, the formative assessment are checked. So there are checks that are done by certain assessment, someone will moderate, and then the report, and there's a checking whether the cognitive levels are in order, the weightings are in line. They call that document that checks what the preparation. In a TVET space, they call it an analysis grid, where you check whether the marks are correct, the duration of a paper is fair, the weightings are in accordance with the guideline, the assessment guideline. So that is the check that is taking place. And then the paper maybe need to be approved and then issued for assessing. Opportunities provided for learners, input in assessment and modification made. Sometimes learners might have an input in terms of, let's say, a lecturer would say, this is the scope that I will be assessing you on. And then learners will say, no, sorry, sir, we are not ready to write long division yet, because it's still new, it's still a new concept. And then maybe a teacher or a lecturer will do a revision for preparing learners for that assessment, or maybe he can just omit that, or maybe he can stick to the guidelines in terms of what is relevant for him to assess. To assist you on planning of assessment, refer to assessment document below when planning for assessment. Okay, there's an assessment document in your book. Look, not gonna make this slide go all over. And then that assessment planning document, it will tell you each and every stage in terms of a purpose, date, and everything that you need to do for planning. So the assessor and the candidate should complete and sign this document to agree on a plan. So in some institution they call it assessment plan. It differs by institution to institution. 2.2 parties involved in assessment. Parties involved in assessment should be notified in due time to assist during assessment. Okay, we highlighted those individuals who might be needed during assessment. Learners, obviously, facilitators and teachers because they are subject matter experts. Assessors, there are assessors who are facilitators. Person who facilitates and assess. But to be an assessor, you need to be registered. And then you need to be registered with this unit standard to be deemed an assessor. And then there's an assessor for a specific program, which means you're going to get this assessor certificate or statement of result from Khetha. And then you still need to apply to assess within your field of study. I don't know if I'm making sense by that statement. Let me use the same example that I used earlier in the other aspect I was talking about. Let us say you already completed this program, and I gave you statement of result from Khetha and a certificate, which means you are registered under ETDP Khetha as a basic assessor, which is required by the TVET colleges, CET colleges, and many Adumalusi when you are trying to pursue those opportunities, just to see that you are registered assessor within the recognized Khetha, which is ETDP Khetha for that. But it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there. You still need to be a registered assessor for a particular program that is within your field. What am I saying now? Let me make an example of public management people. Within public management, there are many skilled programs that are offered by Khetha. So those skills programs are qualifications, some are unit standards, etc., etc. So if you have a qualification in public management and you have you are competent in assessor course and you have a CV that shows that you have studied this and you have your ID, you have your qualification, you need to apply to your seat. What am I saying now? Your seat. Your seat is because 21 seaters, they are categorized based on different fields. There are seaters that are specific to hospitality, like Khetha. There are seaters that are specific to public management, that is P-Khetha. There are seaters that are specific to education and training, that is ETDP Khetha. So your Khetha, if you are a public management person, it would be P-Khetha. And then you look at qualifications that are offered within Khetha from NQF level 1 up to NQF level, let's say NQF level 6, for example. So we're looking at NQF that is equivalent to APED courses, NQF level 2 that is equivalent to programs that are offered at the TVET, but they are standing alone as Khetha skills programs that you can access. So in order to be a qualified assessor for those programs, you need to apply to your Khetha, P-Khetha, for example. And then you submit your CV, submit your qualification, and you submit that you are competent in basic outcome-based assessment course. And then that Khetha will give you a form as well. You complete a form to register as an assessor for that particular program that you have chosen. Maybe you've chosen level 3 program, level 2 program. It's up to you. And it's up to the market in terms of what is required out there by skills providers, and then your Khetha will take the form that you submitted and your document, and they will evaluate it. Once they've evaluated your qualification and CV and stuff, and then they would register you as an assessor or a national diploma in public management, for example. And then you become a registered assessor for that particular program. Same thing applies to engineering courses, hospitality courses. There are a number of short courses, short unit standard, and then you go to Khetha and you ask for an application form, Mr. Sibia, because you are a hospitality person, I know. You go to Khetha and Khetha will tell you if you want to become an assessor in our SITA, this is the form. We need your CV, we need your qualification. They might also need some experience in the field, so that when you assess with experience of that field. And then from there, they register you for, let's say, food beverages, and we have level 4 qualification, and you become a registered assessor for food and beverage qualification, and we have level 4. So whoever have a program or a project or have students that are doing that course, you'll be contacted because you are registered to assess that program. And then you can expand your scope by looking all those features that maybe might be linked to what you have. You keep on registering yourself, and you find yourself registered to a number of features whereby you are registered. If you have a computer related qualification, you will find yourself being an assessor in MICT feature. The list goes on and on and on. So I wanted to share that part in terms of being an assessor. It's something that you need to also pursue it further because it comes with opportunities. Because you find TVET colleges might have a big project and then they need an assessor for food and beverage, and then you just take 200 students, you assess them, you charge them, and then you get extra cash based on assessing those programs. And people travel with this assessing and facilitating things, because once you are known, people they start to hire you, and once you deliver quality work as well, people they do hire you as well. So that part I wanted to share as a role of being an assessor, and taking note of you are becoming an assessor in a registered and get registered to your SITA and get registered to a specific program that is within the field. And then you find there are observers as well who come and observe in terms of how things are done. Pre-assessment moderation, what is it? The process which ensures that assessment of the outcome described in the NQF standard or qualification is fair, valid, and reliable. How? Moderation can be internal on the work of another assessor in the organization, or external. I spoke about that a little bit in our previous lesson, whereby I said that we do internal monitoring of work, and then also SITA do come and monitor after we've done work. So the assessment moderation is to make sure that the question paper is fair, is it within the curriculum that was taught, things like that. Pre-assessment process, moderation of assessment plan, instrument, and guide. This is the same thing that I just mentioned. So prior to any assessment being done, there would be a pre-assessment moderation meeting whereby a learner and a candidate and the assessor they sit, and then they talk about how the assessment will be unfolded. And also they talk about the instrument that would be used, the guidelines that would be used, the plan that would be used in terms of ensuring that everyone is aware when and what should be assessed on which day. Detailed criteria of evaluation of each of these are specified in pre-assessment moderation guide. Key issues in the meeting will be recorded. So everything and anything get discussed during the assessment planning meeting, and then parties that are involved as well. They sign documentation to say that I agree, I'm ready, etc. etc. The external moderation will on any occasion deemed necessary by the ETQA review instrument guide plan. Sometimes we find that we are confident that the instrument that we use to assess you as a candidate, and then only to find that the ETQA or the Education and Training Quality Assurer from Khetha come and say this instrument doesn't serve purpose that is intended by the program or the unit standard. It might happen that there are things that have been updated, and then they come and clarify that please improve here and then. Tools to be used: assessor request moderation on internal community. The assessors will have prepared the assessment plan tools. So there would be tools that would be used that inform the planning. There would be templates that are completed by the candidate. There are templates that will be completed by the moderator, which ensures that there is clear understanding in terms of what to be done and what has been done. And pre-assessment requirements should be explained to learner. The issue of time, date, requirements, venue, process that will unfold roles and responsibilities. If there's a need for RPL explanation, special needs to take care of, and resources that should be obtained on time by facility important. Preparing candidates need to understand why they are involved in the assessment and how these assessments are going to be conducted. That's very important. And then the assessor needs to be empathic and also need to be a critical listener. So if you're an assessor, you need to show care to your candidate. You need to show that you are not fighting with the candidate, but you are working together. The learner must see that you are kind. The aim is to check competence. There is no fight in this process. And the critical listener, the candidate will ask questions. You must critically listen to a candidate, and in order to answer in a way that maybe it might motivate, empower, and not discourage the learner, because listening is a skill. So if you are not empathic, it shows the I don't care attitude. So it becomes a problem. And it also, if it shows that you are not listening in a critical manner, it shows that there's something that is lacking in terms of ensuring that a candidate gets supported and you are clear in terms of what the learner is trying to say. So the listening as well, it's also important because when you provide feedback, you can see if someone did not understand by the response they provide. You can show that this person was not listening, or he or she doesn't have a listening skill. So by that, colleagues, I think that is the end of what I prepared for you. And this is the end of unit 2 in terms of looking at the preparation for assessment. So can I open the floor in terms of what I just spoke about? Do you have questions? And do you seek any clarity, someone? Good to see hands. Can I start with Sylvia?
Hi, good evening. Now, as you're talking about being an assessor, for example, a TVET college calls you and then you get 200 students, then you charge them. I think I need to find out, or should I say, I need to ask, is there a specific rate? Because you talked about you charge them. Is there a specific rate that is put that you should charge with this rate, or you put your own rate? That's my question.
You can put your own rate, But if you put your own rate, maybe you might end up charging too much. So the best way, I was part of that in long time ago. The best way to discover the rate is to check others in terms of how do they charge with regards to that particular assessing or moderating, and then they will tell you maybe per portfolio we charge 400 rand, and then you can work around that because it becomes your market price, 400 rand per portfolio, for example.
So there's no specific guideline from
No,
Khetha.
no.
Oh, okay.
But the market end up creating a certain level, because they might take me because you charging 900 per portfolio, and then I will charge 400 per portfolio, and then you need to understand how others are doing it, so that you come.
Okay. Understand.
Lerato.
Good evening, colleagues.
Evening.
So I just want to know what happens if majority of my students fail. Am I allowed to reassess them? And if I heard you correct, can I assess other fields related or closely related to my field of study, or I'm only allowed to assess the things that I have studied on? Thank you.
Thank you, Lerato. In terms of working, that would also define whether they offer the remedial stage of assessment, or it's just that if you miss the assignment and you fail, it's an end of story. So it, because you have to submit marks and they need to be captured, and then it ends there. It depends on the environment, but the essence of assessment is assessment for learning, whereby if it's formative, can assess and then give a student feedback, and you see that the student is struggling, and then give a student task to say they go and read this and this and this. I would like to that's part of learning. But when it comes to a summative, to be clear, there are limited chances that you can reassess. The reassessment for summative sometimes referred as supplement, sometimes referred as special exam, based on the guidelines of the institution that you'll be working at. And then in response to fields to assess, you must meet the requirements of those fitters or institutions that you want to enter in. Let us say you have a commerce and you have education, you have IT, in number of qualifications, or one qualification has a number of things that you believe you can blend in. So you will let the fitter that you're trying to enter decide whether your major of IT in your commerce degree will allow you to be in MICT fitter and assisting end user computing, something like that. And then maybe inside there's management or business management of some sort that will take you to services fitter. So service fitter would decide as well whether with that can allow you to assess small business and all those particular programs that are offered by services. So that is how you get to see where can I enter based on the requirements and your field of study, your experience, etc. etc. I hope you colleagues are answered. Any question from the house? Yes, Lerato.
I just wanna know, how long does it take for a TVP sitter to print out assessor certificate? Because I work at an education sector, but I cannot remember which one. So mostly the services providers that provides a ECD, it takes years for the certificate to be printed out. So I just want to know how long does it take for us to get the assessor certificates? Because I've been hearing most of the time when you talk about the certificates and statement of results, you mostly talk about the statements of results.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's just that, especially where I come from, the TVET environment, there always be a saying as well like that to say that the certificate takes long to come out and stuff. And as a person who was inside, I disagreed with that statement, those statements to say that the qualification took long. Why I disagree? I would also disagree with the ECD that you're talking about that it take long. Why I disagree is because we don't necessarily tell people what makes your assessor certificate as Lerato delayed. Maybe you did not submit a portfolio that is required. Maybe you were told to do remedial, but you did not do, So in essence, if there is a certain requirement that you did not meet, CETA does not issue anything. And that is where it takes long. And again, it might happen that Khetha training as a training provider does not do justice in terms of ensuring that as you complete this, it moves to this stage. From this stage, it moves to this stage, and then it reaches CETA system on time. Those things are not explained because those are internal matters. When you're looking at the CETA timeline, sometimes, let me give you a practical example. I had a group of 10 assessor students, and then we did everything inside Khetha training, assessing, moderating, and then we requested for external moderation. Within a week, they responded and they gave us a date. And then if we did not align ourselves with responded to that date, they were gonna give us another date. There are things that an institution need to respond to. There are things that a learner need to respond to. So that is why at the end we are human. We like a trend. When there's a trend, the trend comes with one phrase: ECD certificate delayed. But what happened? I always ask that question. What happened? Who did not do what he was supposed to do that caused delay? Because CETA is very strict. They want things done right. So if you don't do it right, it delays. So that's my response. That's my perspective. I don't know if I'm right. Any question? I think I touch a very nice topic, the one that talks to you registering further. So that's another homework for you that I would like to give it to you in terms of which one is my CETA and which program am I gonna go to, and then I'm gonna take you, Ryan, and also you must also look into that CETA. Whether how long are they gonna be still offering that particular program? Remember, I showed you on Unit 1 in terms of how to read the SAQA document. So when you're reading a SAQA document, it tells you the enrollment time of that qualification or that unit standard and the certification time. So that also determines the valid period for that particular unit standard you are choosing. And also, the last thing I want to share with you is that QCTO, it used to be a body that focused on engineering, trade, and all that. Yes, it still does that, but I'm not sure what happened with the CETAs, but QCTO has taken over the CETA programs in a manner that they everything starts from them, and some programs are being absorbed by QCTO, and some programs QCTO try to absorb them and they are failing, they are taking it back. So as you embark as well on your or your research of your CETA, please look into how much engagement has QCTO took from your CETA. Are you supposed to focus on your program, let's say public management, a simple one? Is it offered by PSETA or is it offered by QCTO now? Because there's this transition that is taking place. So there's a many dialogue that you'll see in this space now, because you said you want to assess based on unit standards. You need to understand what is happening on the skill side, what is happening on occupational side, because QCTO offers mostly programs that talks to the occupation that one is going to perform. Mr. Mbolo Kane.
I just wanted to know, I just wanted to know when you search the SAQA and the specific unit standard or the interest, is it going to help you to set up the assessment?
Exactly, yes. It will. Because once you say, because we have in management testing, once you say SAQA public finance, and then it should give you a SAQA, and then you click on that. Maybe if you have a printer, you just print it out. And then when you print it out, the things that you need to look at, does it have a SAQA ID? Yes. Does it have a type? Yes. Is it still valid? Yes. In which level is it? Level 5. How many credits? 20 credits. Okay. And then you go down. What is the purpose of that unit standard? They will tell you is to maybe introduce a public official to the public finance, fiscal policies and stuff like that. Oh, okay, it's for teaching people how the public finance policies work. And then you go down. There are outcomes there. If there are 5 outcomes, like I'm talking about 5 outcomes in this module, you need to look into what outcome 1 entails, what outcome 2 entails, what outcome 3 entails. And then you start looking into, if you had to assess outcome 1, how would you assess outcome 1?
I see.
How would you assess outcome 2 up until? And that thing we just spoke about right now, that is where all the qualifications start at. Even your degree, your honors, your what, it starts from the SAQA document and its outcomes, because there were people who developed your qualification and then they put in the outcome that should be taught and that should be assessed. It starts there. And then people, they start to develop other documents such as the assessment guidelines. The assessment guidelines come from the SAQA document, because the main framework, the main decider in terms of where is this program is the SAQA document.
I see, sir. Yeah, I was just checking it now while you were talking. It makes sense.
Yeah. You see, I'm a robot. I'm reading what you're reading.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
I
your
can see
AI.
you know it by head.
All right. No, I also wanted to share that, just to introduce you to start thinking about your assessment as well. Because now, as you are looking there, you'll start looking at the outcome number 1. Outcome number 1 says that the learner have to, or candidate or whatever the language is, has to be able to demonstrate understanding of 1 to 3. How can you ask a question that would show that a student can demonstrate understanding. So questions like draw a diagram, draw a process, or something like that. The person would show understanding because they will say, step 1, I do this, step 2, I do this, because your SAQA document said a learner must demonstrate understanding through drawing, and then you ask them to draw as well. You can't ask them to define when the outcome they say draw, say illustrate. Those are the key verbs that are used to come up with the question. I'm going to look at that as well as you create your question to say that, okay, we'll play around with maybe with few, because after 3 lessons, I'll ask you to share your one. MP would share his, Sneh would share his, and Puma would share his. So at that stage, we start by looking at maybe Samuel's unit standard to support him in gaining understanding of his field. And then we move on and look at Xolisa's one. And Xolisa maybe will be focusing on her field and with her unit standard. And then we'll be tackling the unit standard for Xolisa, but we're learning at the same time to make some sense in terms of how do you go about coming with a question that say, maybe you create a case study. You want a learner to explain something like that. So that is what I wanted to introduce to you, and you start thinking now. Any question of you? I think we are doing great with time. My watch says 5 to 7. I don't know if it's behind or but it's 5 to 7. So we're doing
behind.
great with time. Behind. Okay. So no, thank you so much. I will also prepare a recording for this and then share it as a link for ease of access. If you want to go through what we just spoke about, maybe it was too much, it's too new to you, and then you can come back again and ask questions. And then based on the agreement, and also looking at it's a long weekend, people are going here and there. Can we agree that we'll meet again on Tuesday?
Yes, please.
Yeah, Tuesday is fine with me too.
Okay. And then what I will also request from you, colleagues, is that you saw that I sent you a register that talks to you. Please make sure that you print that one. After you have typed your name and your surname, you print that one, you sign Monday, you sign, it was a Tuesday, yes, you sign Tuesday and you sign Thursday. You skip Wednesday because I was absent due to my emergencies at home. And then the same document, please change the date to suit next week, whereby you'll have Monday as a holiday, and then you'll sign Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we'll see how it goes. Maybe SB again, you say no on Friday, and then we'll see how it we'll see how it goes. But we're gonna move on like that. If our conversation keep on continuing, you please make sure that you have a signing space that we would use at the end to submit to show that we have this session, we had these holidays, things like that.
Is it possible to sign or electronically? Because I have my signature I do have it in my computer. Is it fine instead of printing?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine as long as if it's gonna look as professional as is required. It's fine.
Okay.
Okay. No, thank you, colleague. We'll speak again and enjoy your holiday and be safe. See you on Tuesday.
Thank you, sir. You
Thank you.
too. Have a nice one.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.